Hi, it's Liz, and today we're going to be making a felt book. So I'll show you the process that I did, and then at the end we'll do a little recap of what I would change differently. So these are all the pieces I started with. I have an embroidery machine, so I had all these pieces and I didn't know what to do with them. So I thought a felt book would be a great way to start. So I had some numbers, I had some cupcakes, some bunnies, some dogs, some unicorns. So I thought it would be a great way to make a felt book and do a little bit of counting, a little bit of movement. So I started with a prototype. I used a gray background because I had this felt already and the stop sign. So I wanted it to move back and forth on the page was the concept. So I first started with just some chalk and the felt, and I wanted to do buttonholes. So on my machine I was able to make buttonholes so that it would just be reinforced when it goes sliding back and forth. So I just did a little tester. I haven't done buttonholes in so long, so it was just nice to try it out again and see if I could do it, and just no pressure way to make buttonholes. So this one, it's a 4-part step where you have to change manually each part of where you want to do it. So then you have a lot more guidance. But yeah, I've had this machine since I was like 13, so it's still running great. So after I did that, you cut the buttonhole, and then I made another buttonhole on the other side just to make sure I could do it. And then I only did that on one layer of felt, and then I put another piece of felt behind it. So I'm going to be sewing on both sides, and then I'll create a little bit of a pocket so that the white strip that goes back and forth is able to sit in there. And so you can see it's just a little pocket that goes up to the buttonhole. And then the white strip, I sewed 2 pieces of strip together, and you can see that I sewed it too snug. So I wanted to have a little bit more wiggle room, otherwise it won't lay flat. So on my next one, as this one is just a prototype, I will have to make it a little bit wider so that it's wider than the white strip. So I searched for some gray felt on a bolt and I didn't have any, so I decided just to use the white felt that I had, and I cut them to 11 by 11, though this is not my final size at the end. At the end of the video I do give you all the measurements. I cut the white strips 1 inch, and I think it was by 22 or 24 inches. So once I had that all cut out, I didn't use the chalk anymore because I found that it left the chalk residue, so I started using pins. And so I'm just sewing the 2 1-inch strips together just because then it'll be more sturdy. Created the buttonholes and did that. So you can see that first page is semi-done with a stop, and I'm just measuring out the sides because I do want to fold them so it gives it a bit more grip. This is for my second page for number 2 with the 2 trucks, fire trucks, and just how it's going to look and the placement and everything. So I had this bulldozer that was in the embroidery frame, but when I cut it out, it came apart. So the backing, so you would see the backing, and I didn't want that, especially if it was going to be used as a Velcro piece. So I ended up stitching it, sewing it first, and then cutting it, and that worked out way better. My next page is some bunnies, so I was just figuring out the placement, then unicorns, cupcakes, and dogs. I was trying to see the size as well, so I did cut some off at the bottom and then top stitch the 2 felts together. Decided to grommet the top part, so I have a cam snap, so this does it more precise, but I did have some issues with them. And I did want to have the pull tabs on the side be a little bit thicker, so I decided to fold it over and then sew them down or sew them together so they're more durable when you pull them. And then I hand stitched the tab that's going to go slide back and forth so you could only see it on one side. Now the Velcro. The Velcro I bought, it was supposed to be a no-sew Velcro and it had issues. I did leave it and for 48 hours and it still came up. So I was going to have to sew them on. It was fine on the pieces that, like the excavator, that it was actually on the piece, but on the felt itself, it did not stick. So I was having issues with all of them of how much it was pulling up. I knew that I would have to sew them down, unfortunately. So the book is complete. I did put some jump rings at the very top. And some of the, I use a cam snap, but you can also use like a handheld grommet machine, but some of them did not snap right, which was a little bit weird. And then the grommets, when I was putting through the rings, weren't going through the grommet, so I did have to take a little pliers and try to open up the holes just to make sure, but it is the only size grommets that I have. I'd probably want to go with a little bit bigger size. I think these were the 4mm ones, but that's what I have. So the final size for this is 9, just above 9.5 long by almost 11. So we did lose some length. Now that I look at it, it is quite big for what it is. I think it might have been cuter if it was more of a half size. But I think as a very first draft, there's a lot more you can do. So the very first one is stop. I did hand sew this, so I did sew the back of it to here. So some changes I would do. I did buy Velcro for the putting on the numbers, and then on the additional pages, putting on additional things. I wish though that I put on the Velcro before I sewed the 2 pages together. So it's 2 pages of felt, just because it just looks a little cleaner if it didn't have the Velcro being stitched all the way through. So I would have sewn the Velcro in, then sewed, I top stitched the top and the bottom, so I did that beforehand. I also top stitched just going up here and down there and leaving this open. So as you can see, this one's stop. I did the fire trucks, and so that one's Velcro. Same with the number. We got the bulldozers, bottoms, and also the number. The way I did this as well is you could take this off and you could use it as a felt on a felt board and mix and match. So it has a lot of versatility to it. And you can see it is a little bit, maybe I need bigger rings, but it works. The big bunny, the small bunny, and the number 4. And then the unicorns. And I'm hoping I didn't sew the backings on the Velcro for the attachments. So far, it doesn't feel like it's coming off, but we will see with time. And with these, you can move them back and forth. The cupcakes. And of course, the number. And then the very last one are the dogs. So I think it's very, very cute for my very first go. I do think that some improvements I would make for next time is maybe making this smaller. It is quite bulky, maybe not doing all 7, maybe doing 5, or maybe doing 3 or something, just because it is thick. It's not too bad, but I would say it would be neat just to have a smaller version of it. I think adding some more color to the background. It is very white. It's very simple, and I do like that aspect, because when you get stuff that's a little bit too busy, that can be an issue with young kids as well. My other thing that I think I still need to work on, and I'm not too sure what I can do, but maybe you can put some suggestions down in the comments, is I made the strips a certain length, and then I folded the strips over. So on each side, it's about 2.5 inches that they can grip on. And so you can move it back and forth, all right? So you can do that But if I pull it too much, it can come out. And I'm not too sure how to stop that. If I should have made this one a little bit bigger. Maybe when I sewed it back on itself, I should have done it maybe, you know, like, I don't know, I have to think of some sort of design where children can still grab it at a young age. It's still neat to go back and forth, but it's not so so tricky because they'll probably just pull from one side and then just pull it out, right? So trying to figure out something that will stop it, and I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with that, but I think it's a neat concept, and it's the beginning of a felt book. I think maybe with this felt book I also have a couple different concepts within here, and I could have simplified it just making it one concept. So if I was just wanting it as a pull tab going back and forth, that could have been a separate book, which I could have obviously made it smaller, but I was trying to incorporate a lot of concepts of movement, plus also counting, plus also different pieces. So I think it's a great first felt book, considering I've never made a felt book like this, incorporating, you know, the embroidery aspect, the counting aspects, and the different teaching aspects that you can do with this. And then you can, you know, store other felt things if you need to, but you could also take off the pieces and use it on a different felt story if that's what you want. But I think it's a great first start. It's going to be a gift, so I am very happy with it. So I hope you enjoyed watching the video. Let me know of your comments or any things that I could do differently, or what you do with your felt book, or if you've never made a felt book. I think it's a great foundation that I'm starting with, and that we can build it further and make more felt books in our future. But I think it's a great option using all those embroidery things. And I could also embroider the background too. I could have added textures and different things like that, and different scenes. So there's lots of possibilities, and so I think this is kind of like our first felt book journey that we're doing together. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!